Welcome to the new incarnation of Stable Talk. I promise we'll attempt to hold ourselves to the dignified standards of the original Stable Talk series, but dick jokes are inevitable.
I was going to say, we're still going to talk about our sex lives, right?
Yeah, I'm hoping. Anyway.
Seems like a key feature.
That is absolutely what we're going to talk about. That was...
Oh, Kimmy's new. Oh, no. I forgot we have a lady in the room. Sorry, everyone.
Well done,
I'm like actually a man, so it's okay.
That's fantastic.
That is excellent.
Okay, James, continue.
No, I'm totally a man.
Well, that is fantastic. So, in that case, just so that we can get the audience acquainted with who's here, could you please say who you are, what you do, and how's your sex life?
You know what? I'm going to let Skybolt start, because I don't want to feel like I'm setting the tone.
I'm Skybolt. I'm pretty new, actually. I've only been here a couple months, but I'm starting to get acquainted with everybody. It's a pretty nice place to be. And, yeah, my sex life is engineering work right now, which is not as hot as it could be, but, you know, it's got pipes, so... yeah.
Oh, well, that paints a vivid picture.
I like it. And just for the record, he is the music director.
Oh, yeah, I do stuff.
My name is Waveform. I'm the director of Stable-Tec. I kind of corral the cats and keep the sheep in line as best I can. Do a little bit of voice acting, a little bit of sound editing, and kind of piss everybody off. And my sex life, polyamorous.
Oh yeah, because
big word.
You spawned out of the music industry in the 80s.
Yes, I did.
So you've done literally everything and everyone.
You know what? I'm gonna plead the fifth on that one.
Literally.
Give Kimmy her chance.
Oh, well, you've already said my name multiple times, but I'm Kim, otherwise known as Warrior Cat Cloudtail 5, and I'm a voice actress, and I'm new, like September, October, December, sometime eventually. And my rock people don't know what this word sex means because we live under rocks, and you know it's kind of hard to tell what's going on.
Oh, so you come from the land of the rock people then?
Yes.
I've always wanted to meet one of their kind. All right. Well, it is nice to meet all three of you. My name is James Vermont. I live in South Africa. I'm one of the writers here at Stable-Tec. My sex life situation has not changed since that first episode of Stable Talk.
Okay, so that's your throwback, so you guys can go back to the first series if you want.
Yeah.
You know, it's really disenchanting for me, or, I don't know what the right word would be, but I'm looking at the Skype things, which you good people probably can't see, because this will be an audio podcast, but James has the cat from... Secret of Kells. Yeah, the Secret of Kells, right?
Yeah, Secret of Kells.
Yeah, I almost said Bible Kells. That's the object, though. Anyway, that's a really good movie, a really pretty animation, and I finally got around to seeing the Song of the Sea, not sequel, but the next movie that guy did. Very good movie, very in keeping with the spirit.
I never watched Song of the Sea, but the writing director here at Stable-Tec, Daniel Mohan, since he's Irish, he got me onto Secret of Kells. He
of course he did.
Yeah, he's a big fan of it. So I went and watched it, and I have been loving that movie since I watched it. Multiple rewatches. I have that one song that Aisling sings on my phone that I just listen to on repeat.
It's very gorgeous.
It's gorgeous, but so depressing if you hear the translation.
Yeah.
I tried to watch it, and for some reason I couldn't get into it. I'll have to give it another shot.
It's not for everyone, but definitely what sucks is what happened to me last time, which is I was watching it on Netflix, and right as soon as he gets into, there's this part, he goes out into the woods and magical cave, all the quality dropped instantly in Netflix, and I was looking at this 144p YouTube video from the 2008. It sucked. So that's why I keep buying more and more Blu-rays, because you're not dependent on the stupid internet unless they try to key you in with one of those pinging BS Sony things.
If there's been anything that I've really wanted to watch, I'm just downloading it. Borrowing it. borrowing it.
Borrowing it.
Yeah, that's what you meant to say.
Yes, as members of the film industry, it would be most unorthodox. Well, no, just be shitty of us to do it, but, we secretly do it anyway.
I live in California, and whatever you do to the film industry, they probably deserve. You can trust me on that.
I have to agree.
This goes back to the RIAA, when they tried to wield their mighty force against the forces of Napster. And it's like, at some point you have to find a crossroads. It's like bands and movie people, too, are getting smarter about this. Like Iron Maiden, they started tracking where people were pirating their music and found out they had a bunch of fans in Germany, and they'd never thought of that before, or really keyed in on that market. So right afterwards, they paid this guy to run this research. They had a big tour across Germany, and they made boatloads. Because remember, children of the internet, bands barely get 1% of the profits from their CDs or albums. All of their sales come from merch and live performance.
That is very true, because when I was in the music industry, I learned that, especially from, I believe it was Sony, I actually got to see their documents, and each CD, like if you buy a CD for, $16 or something like that, they get a nickel from each one. The rest of that money goes to the record company and all the different necessary people to create that CD. They get one.
And a really good documentary about this kind of politics is I think it's called not Architect, Artifact. It's the story of 30 Seconds to Mars creating their War album and how sort of the whole idea of the album grew from their battling with it was probably Sony, their label over record label rights and money and all this stuff. So it's very interesting. You get a behind the scenes look at them and the production of music, big studio albums.
Well, all
Which
right.
is why everything's changed, and you can do it all on the internet now. But James, please, continue.
Everything is fantastic on the internet, including, all of Stable-Tec's content. And speaking of which, we've released our brand new IP 2 months ago, in the form of Terminal Secrets, which, by the way, was conceived 2 whole years ago and has been in development since then.
It was a long gestation period.
Oh my god, yes. It had 4 different iterations before it reached this one, including...
Dang.
Yeah, exactly. Including one which involved the Cutie Mark Crusaders with flashbacks of them, which we do actually have a full episode recorded and audio done on all of that, so we might add that into as a small clip from that here in post as just a little treat. But it also one that Skybolt and I are really sad about losing, which is Red Eye. We were going to do Stable 101.
Yes, it would have been quite fantastic to get to work more on my stupid Georgian voice.
We wanted to do the birth of Red Eye as he went from this young man into his first encounter with the Wasteland and so on. But we had to drop it, unfortunately, since we wanted to make more room for the character to grow in the animated series before we showed off any origins. And speaking of Terminal Secrets, since we have the writer of episode 1 here, I would like to ask him a little bit about the sick shit that goes on inside of his mind.
Oh, sweet, behind the scenes.
Because all the every comment on the YouTube channel that isn't about the audio mixing is about the fact that Skybolt is a sick son of a bitch who came up with a weird ass experiment.
Yes, and you people haven't even heard episode 3 yet. Oh god, it's
episode 3.
Whole new levels.
I should just ban you from writing.
You love it.
I do.
Well, it was really interesting because when basically with this iteration of Terminal Secrets, we finally got green light, so to speak, from way back in what was it? late. It was late September, early October, because I was just about to move, and so we were like, okay, everyone has a chance. You can take go make some ideas for these stables and come back, and we'll see if we can put the season together or the series together. And I think it was the Monday or Tuesday, I happened to be having this awful migraine at work, and I was just like kind of stewing in it. And I was already like, I had already gotten my new job here in California, so I was on the way out. I was just sort of unplugging from everything at work, and no one was really giving me a lot of assignments. So I was just kind of sitting there with my pen and paper, literally, like working out, like, okay, what are some ideas that could happen? And I was so upset by the stupid migraine because of whatever reason. I still have never figured out what like my triggers are, or chocolate or cheese. Pretty much for me, it's just like if I don't sleep enough, that's bad, which I never sleep well enough. So I was just like, oh well, what if the frustrating thing about migraines for people who suffer them is that your brain doesn't have any nerve endings in the sense of like your arm. Like, you get whacked in the arm and you feel the pain, or you burn yourself or something. That's not how it works inside your skull. Like, you could burn the skin on the outside of your head, but migraines and headaches and all that kind of pain is still very nebulous because our knowledge of the human mind is only so deep in science as we are right now. And so migraines are their own Pandora's box. And I'm like, well, how much of this pain is created from inside your mind, and how much of it drives you, and how much it can control you? And so that led me over to the I almost said Perkins. Perkins was the guy. Placebo. The placebo effect. And then the reverse, which is the nocebo effect, which is inflicting pain on yourself that isn't real. It's like you're imagining a pain worse than it is. And I basically took that to a logical extreme.
Hence Stable 81.
Yes. And then really, I don't know about like the actual characters and the format. That stuff kind of just rolls out of me. Like, I'm sure a lot of people would ask, if we do Q&A on Confessions as well. It's sort of like, I don't know, it just stitches itself together, and that's the way it appears. Like, I know I could go back and do heavily editing on a story, but in a lot of ways, it's just sort of the way it falls. For me, for instance, a big quote I took away from was something Stephen King once said at a university, because he's been a professor, and of course he goes on speaking tours for his books. And one time he said that he doesn't ever keep a notebook per se, like an idea pad or something by his bed, because he said the best ideas will stick with you. They'll be there when you wake up, or they'll be there when you come back to it again, and all the refuse will just burn away in the sidelines. And so it was actually a really interesting quote, and I really internalized that philosophy of where if I come up with a plot idea and it's good enough, it'll keep coming back, and that's just how the story, like the foundations get laid.
Oh, definitely seems to have paid off, because episode 1 was an excellent episode, and we saw great performance. We saw some really great performances from our voice actresses, and of course, once Skybolt gave me the episode, I then said the reaction was then, of course, that's a very nice episode, and I love these characters, and I like that they all sort of survive the ending. I'm going to kill them off in the last minute and a half of the episode, though. So, but here's the thing. With these characters now being gassed, with Butterfly, hearing them through the audio on the live feed and gassing them, Pippin is going to be appearing in every future episode of Terminal Secrets. So I'm just going to let that sink in. And speaking of Pippin, I want to let's just bring this over to Kimmy over here with her adorable Pippin voice, because that was insane.
Thank you.
Well, especially for an actress. What the? Sorry, that was my phone. Especially for an actress where you have to play both the kid version and an adult version of a character. Like, you can't find that with a lot of VAs, especially because, again, I didn't plan it that way, but that's just sort of how it happened, where it's like, okay, we get a little Philly character who just gets her mark and gets introduced into this world, and Pippin ends up being, sort of the one you're following around as you're experiencing everything and learning about what this whole setup is. So it really really worked out well. She did a great job.
And perhaps we can hear a little bit of perhaps we can hear a little bit of Pinkin. Preferably.
You want to hear some Pinkin?
It's so
That's
Hi, I'm Pinkin.
that is just that is weaponized cuteness.
What do you mean? It's just my voice.
I genuinely I want to give her a cookie.
I like cookies.
Yeah, it's great. It's very great.
It is absolutely fantastic. I can't wait to hear your work in for the rest of the series. Pinkin's going to have some very interesting moments in future episodes, including opening up the first the first scene of episode 2. We might just include a clip from that toward the end of this video as well. But wrapping up from Terminal Secrets, we need to move to our other IP that has done, well, obviously a hell of a lot better, Confessions of a Wasteland Pony.
Oh, yeah, no, not better. It's just, I got a few episodes out there.
You got a few episodes out there. Every now and then I go and I compare Terminal Secrets to Confessions, and I sort of stare at the view counter and think, it's almost there. One day it's going to surpass it, and then I'm going to laugh at Skybolt.
No, it's great because they're both like really different kinds of like production. So that's one thing I actually liked about doing the first Terminal Secrets episode was it was really different in terms of like full audio drama. Like for me, I said way back in 2014, Confessions is based heavily on World War Z, the fully dramatized but abridged audiobook that they put out where it had like Mark Hamill in it and a bunch of great VAs. But even though it's sort of this interview format, it's also sort of an audio book. I mean, you have whole sections in there of like this one downed pilot where she, performs verbatim her conversation with this radio operator who's helping her get through a zombie-infested area. And I thought it was a really cool. At least would I tell my VAs that it's like bending the fourth wall, because you're sort of like, it's almost like the audio version of a flashback where you cut back and you see a scene, with the dialogue go back and forth. And I feel like most people understand that when it comes across. I first tried experimenting with that sort of mechanic in Duchess Horror with Nathakana when she was reading the emails from Amoria and I can't even remember my character's name now.
That happens to me all the time.
Yeah, whatever her name was, the big, plot chick from Duchess
Someone will
Horror.
correct us in the comments section. Someone will point it
Yeah,
out.
I'll read it in a really bad dub and just put it here, like, over my voice.
Right.
And, so anyway, with the two of them, and I thought it worked out pretty well, so I'm doing a few more, like, dialogue-y scenes where, the characters will be remembering them back, because so much more of Confessions is written. Like, you guys haven't even heard half of it all yet. It's all just sitting on my Google Drive, and it's going to be out there as soon as we can.
The depths of your Google Drive.
Oh my
Yes.
gosh.
They are pretty deep. Little side note about that. Do you know who wrote World War Z?
Oh, it was Mel Brooks' son, Max Brooks.
Yeah, Max Brooks. He also wrote the Zombie Survival Guide.
Yes, I actually read that first, and that was
Fantastic.
what connected me to his full, narrative story, which was really good.
Nice little side note.
I still need to get on to reading World War Z, or at least listening to the dramatization. But
I enjoyed the movie.
I haven't seen the movie yet. I still have not
I'm
seen
not
the
going
movie.
to even dignify that with the response. How dare you
Right.
recognize the movie?
I'm sorry, man. I love the movie.
That's fine.
Anyway,
But there's definitely a lot of differences between the two IPs, as Skybolt said before in the past. At its base, Confessions is cut as how the Wasteland sees it, or how the average pony of the Wasteland hears it live. Where Terminal Secrets takes a lot of its inspiration from from exploring the vaults and the old in Fallout games and discovering the sick experiments within. But the writing team does also have a third, slightly smaller project in the works, which is the Wasteland Survival Guide. It's been an on and off thing that we've been working on, but it is actually a thing. We are working on it.
It's like the 4-horse productions of the apocalypse.
Yeah. We were working on this fourth project. What was it called? It was also this. I think it was called Fallout Equestria.
Yeah, it's an animation, wasn't it?
I can't quite remember, but I hear that's doing really well.
I am under the impression that progress has been made, that we are close to completion. It'll be about 2 weeks.
That would
And in other news, Half-Life 3 is releasing tomorrow.
Great reviews. Everyone's all right. Let's since we made that reference. Everyone out there on the internet, if they ever make Half-Life 3 and if they ever release a full Half-Life 3 game, you are going to hate it. No matter what, the internet at large is going to Mass Effect 3 it so hard that they won't touch Half-Life IP ever again.
Well, that is terrifying.
That's very true.
Harsh.
Yes, I know. I'm sorry. I don't mean to be a splash of cold water, but this is like the nature of the internet that I think a lot of people have started realizing more as like sort of like everyone at large is sort of understanding this back and forth between video game creators and video game people. Because really, the internet's just flattening everything out. Everyone sees all the drama behind the scenes. You know, people have leaks and all this fun stuff, but it's just sort of the nature of things.
It kind of is.
He does. He has a very valid point. One of the things that, at the same time, there's also the innocent of, the people that are sort of just kind of out there playing a little bit. Because I have very to what you're saying. I do voice acting on the side, and I do it for a bunch of different things. One of the things that I did for was the Wasteland 2, which was Wasteland was the predecessor to Fallout, and everybody was, playing it back then. But whatever.
Oh my God,
the point being is that I got,
amazing.
yeah, and I got a couple of parts in it. But even after I did the parts and I got paid for them and blah blah blah, I had never actually played the game, and I still haven't. So I hadn't actually heard myself in the game. So like the other day, I just randomly looked it up and found somebody's playthrough and found me in it. And I was like, wow, they actually did a pretty good job. But then what I found out was that all the lines that I recorded, and I'm talking about hours of lines, they literally used the first line that I recorded, and the rest of it is just text. No other line is spoken, right? So I was just like genuinely glad that I had used their video to say, hey, I was in this, and they were really happy about it. But the funny part is that he was doing the same thing, and he was comparing it to the original Fallout and the original Wasteland, and your idea about how upset and how God, what's the word I'm looking for? Proprietary people get about their games. And how, if they've got one game that they love so much that they will compare every other game to it, and you're just screwed if they love that game. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter how good a product you put out, they're going to roast it.
It's also like hype fatalism, basically. Like, I'm sure if we did a poll of every Fallout fan in the world, Fallout 4 would probably rank third of the recent 3, and it's just because of the delay. It's because Fallout 3 was immediate. Like, they saw that trailer at E3, and they're like, oh my gosh, they're making another Fallout game that isn't terrible like the Xbox One? and then, of course, New Vegas rolled out right after the fact with the Obsidian original developers. And that's still my favorite, personally. I love New Vegas. We can get into that on the next episode. But that's the reason Fallout 4 is not as popular in that sense, as respected. Because of the hype, because of the delay, and because of a few changes that not everyone liked.
Yeah, there were a few changes in Fallout 4. A lot of the changes were definitely for the best, and then there were definitely changes that kind of made me scratch my head and think, what? Okay, I'll just go back and play Fallout 3 now.
In my opinion, Fallout 3 are the only real ghouls. All the ones in Fallout 4 are overstuffed, like turkey ghouls, because Boston, it's like, I almost, in my mind, is what probably a lot of the old Fallout fans feel, which is like Fallout 4 is self-contained, and like other stories might touch in it, but it's its own little world. They're going to leave that over there.
Well, I thought the ghouls in Fallout 3 were Fallout 4 were a lot more vicious. They scared the hell out of me the first time that I came in. They just obliterated me.
They were scarier, yeah. I don't know. They look
them to
like
be as vicious and small touches, things like being in the basement of a building, but there's still a window outside, and the ghouls crawling through the windows, and I was not expecting that.
Yeah, no, that is, the mechanic of ghouls is much better. They have scarier voices, they pop literally out of anywhere, falling out of the walls. That is scary. I'm just personally, I don't like the look of the aesthetic as much. I like the little patches of skin that are missing so you see the insides, whereas these ghouls look more like the Elephant Man, like they've got all these extra skin tumors all over them. It's personal preference.
I suppose a little bit of personal preference.
It ought to come out well when we start working on the animated series. If we get to the point of where we actually have ghouls in it, depending on how you want that done, that'd be a great talking point.
Oh, that's true. No, it's funny.
That's a good. Yeah.
No, because ghouls, like, especially when, I'm not sure how many people know, I draw all the concept artwork for the Confession series. Like, every scene you see there's a terrible pencil scratch version that I did, and I spend so much time working out all the little details of Greenshift, and, like, how he would look, and, like, what his ghouliness would be, because this is all sort of, like, also plot stuff for me, because it's like, I need to know every detail for how it's going to work in the story, and I love that idea of just, like, the exposed white hooves, and then you see the glowing tendons, and then the skin appears again.
Yeah, it does definitely looks. It looks and feels really gruesome when you describe it like that.
Yeah, and then when you have that image that Lee did later of him, and you finally see Tulip Blossom, I thought that was fun. It's cute.
Yeah.
Because she's not a midget per se, but she's a very small pony.
Yeah, when I first saw the image, because I didn't watch the Ghoul Doctor straight away, and then you posted onto the Facebook page that image.
Yeah.
And I thought, oh, okay, does it end with Greenshift adopting a child? Didn't you do that with the last one? Oh no, okay, no, it's his male friend. Okay, cool. She's just very short.
You know what the real life references of that are actually not the personality per se, but sort of like the really tall, awkward gangliness is based on Michael Crichton, who's one of my favorite authors, and arguably it's like a lot of like my writing is based on his books, and he did Jurassic Park and Prey and Andromeda Strain. Basically, he does a lot of facility porn, which is I love that stuff. Anyway, and so he was this tall, 6'6", gangly, awkward beast, and that's what I pictured for Greenshift, was he's just this tall, bony, awkward guy. And then Tulip Blossom, her figure is actually based on one of the original programmers of the NASA project, who was this adorable little 5 foot or 4'11" girl, and there's a famous picture of her standing next to all this code she wrote for the Apollo program, and the books stacked up are taller than she is. So yeah, anyway,
reminds me a little
But
we're just loudmouths.
Well, there's a lot of connections that went on with how we all got together, and I think that if you were to bring it to the simplest form, it definitely was My Little Pony.
Crack.
Yeah, well, that too.
Feel the magic.
Yes, that was it. But I mean, now I have to be honest and say that I'm not as much of a brony as, say, Skybolt is or something like that, but I think that I was very pleased watching it the first time around, but it had everything to do with the fact that I read Fallout Equestria first. And it had
interesting
that
approach, too.
Well, I'll tell you that it came from, I still do art every once in a while, drawing and stuff like that, so I had a DeviantArt account, and I saw a lot of these ponies coming up dressed as Fallout, and I knew what Fallout was, but I'd never watched My Little Pony, and I was like, why is this a thing? And so I kind of traced it back and found the story and read the story over a weekend and was completely blown away and wanted to be involved. found our sister studio, who are doing the video game.
We won't mention their name, though. They're not important.
I completely blanked on the name. I was trying to think of it.
The Overmere Studios.
Thank you. Overmere Studios.
I'm remembering something today.
Yeah,
and it's
I'm glad
competition. Just kidding.
And no, and then I became a voice actor with them and did some of the voices for the video game, and then found this project and started voice acting for this project, and then somehow I got shot up to this position and have kind of regretted it ever since.
Oh God, yes. I remember the days of the Michaels.
Oh my gosh. I remember the days of the first Michael.
The studio was So some clarity, the studio was originally led by Michael Smith, who then brought on two co-directors, Michael Hall, who is currently at the call with us, and Michael, I don't remember the other Michael's name.
Brugioni.
Oh, Brugioni, that was it.
He was sort of...
And so we had three Michaels running the studio, then, which kind of perpetuated the myth that you had to be named Michael to run the studio.
Which is why JD was trying to change his name for a while.
And also, this remained quite the same because the funny fact, despite the fact that Skybolt has released a lot of episodes of Confessions of a Wasteland Pony, he was only recently made an official member of the Stable-Tec writing team, and the reason is his name isn't James.
That's right.
Yeah, because the current leader of the writing team the writing team at the time was Daniel James Mohan, James D. Parks, and James Vermont. So we couldn't have Skybolt there.
They just hated Americans, obviously.
No doubt. Now let's pop in really quick with because we do need to wrap this up before long. But I want to definitely throw a shameless promotional thing in there about the other audio series that is associated with Stable-Tec, which is the Followed Equestria audio series.
Yes.
And that one is currently on chapter 12 is being produced. And I wanted to mention the fact that there is going to be an original created from scratch Velvet Remedy song on that episode. And it's going to have, it's a rock and roll song. It's not going to have a whole lot to it because it's, of course, right before something explodes, because why not? It's rock and roll.
Because episode 12, or chapter 12.
So, exactly. So there's going to be the current Velvet Remedy actress is actually going to be singing her own part. And I have recruited an old 80s rock and roll friend of mine who is a guitarist, bass player, singer type of thing, and working together with him on putting something together for that. There's still a lot of original music coming from the people in Skybolt's department that are putting together stuff for that. It's been really satisfying to get everybody involved with this, because I was doing it by myself for quite some time. With the actresses and actors that I had, and then that fell apart, which is why the last chapter took 7 months, is because I lost all my actors, all my leads, and kind of had to recruit all new ones, which I'm glad I did, because the new people are fantastic. So if you haven't, look it up. It's literally just a Fallout Equestria audiobook on YouTube. And it's definitely gaining quite a few followers, just like the Confessions has been, and Terminal Secrets got a huge introductory when it came out. It was like it got a lot of views right away. So all the audio series are definitely carrying us while we put together the last bits of the animated series in 2 weeks. I keep saying that for your benefit, Skybolt.
It's an inside joke that we've had with production. So, it will be done as soon as possible. It's like that's why we try to fill the gaps. That's one of the reasons Confessions got created, and we try to keep music rollouts and everything. Like, I was so happy personally when we finally got the soundtrack album out there, because that thing was 2 years in the making. Like, as soon as I started with the studio and like I was sort of made official as the music director, I was gathering all these Brony artists that I remembered or who had done Fallout stuff or similar stuff, and just tried to pull everything together for the soundtrack that I could. And luckily we were lucky. We've had a lot of great musicians.
All right, cool.
And then, of course,
I'm sorry, guys. I think we are going to have to cut this episode of Stable Talk short because it is currently 4 o'clock in the morning for me, and I have been up for 22 consecutive hours. And
He's amazing like that.
I think.
That's right. I'll see you like tomorrow cutting a ton out of this.
Yeah, so this 15-minute podcast will be up on our channel, and then if people like it and they want to hear more of us just, talking about life and the internet and apocalypse ponies, then
And
we'll
rock
make more
people.
of them.
And rock people. Don't forget the rock people. Love the rock people, guys.
Oh, I can talk more about rock people, absolutely.
We
We're going
would
to rock some people's world.
Oh my god. What the hell is that? I'm sorry.
That's okay. I couldn't resist. It's a nightmarish image if you've seen Fallout at all.
The nightmare-
Oh, yes!
Oh my god.
I forgot about that!
That you get once
We
again.
gotta insert the song over the top of it.
I will make sure to leave this image at the end of the video because that is nightmare fuel.
That is good.
Dun, 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 dun.
And with that, we bid you farewell. And I don't know, do we have
Talk to you later, Apocalypse Ponies.
Do we have a theme song?
We could make up theme songs week by week until we make one, a la Rooster Teeth. My Little Pony, Apocalypse Pony, making the death from above.